Chad.
Yes.
So, good to finally meet you.
Yes, glad you guys could come out chasing monsters and legends.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the history of this and kind of what exactly it is.
Well, really, basically 111 years ago on this very September time period, the people of Van Meter here were terrorized by a giant creature. They said was 8 feet tall, had featherless, giant bat-like wings. They shot at it over numerous nights. It seemed to have no effect. And what I love about it is the town of Van Meter was about 1,000 people at that time. It's about 1,000 people today. In fact, the downtown has shrank a little bit. They used to have a few more bars than that, but what I love is that you can still come here and see the same street that people shot at it, the same buildings in the area, and walk right out to the old coal mine and see history. It's not 10 miles away. It's not, we think it happened over here. We're right in the area of legends.
I do.
And so it started, I don't know how long you want me to go on, but I can.
Go on as long as you want.
It started when U.G. Griffith, he was a local businessman. He was coming back to Van Meter about 1 a.m. when he saw a light on one of the buildings over here. He thought it was a robber. And then all of a sudden he got a little closer, the light disappeared, reappeared on another building in a matter of a second.
Now, we don't charge for our services.
He thought it was still a robber. It disappeared. The next morning he started telling people about it. And, it's just a robber, practical joker. We'll be on the lookout. Next night, Dr. Alcott, who was sleeping above his office, heard a sound, somebody choking. He got up, looked outside, saw this giant creature. Said it was 8 feet tall. Much to his credit, he didn't just look at it. He ran outside with his gun, which the newspaper said was of immense proportion. Blasted 5 of his 6 rounds at it. It had no effect. He kept his last round, I think, for himself, and he ran back into the back of his building until morning came. Well, that morning, he started spreading the word. Clarence Dunn, who lived on the outskirts of Van Meter, left his family that night. He was the bank manager. He went down to the bank to guard the money from the intruders. He still thought it was a robber. But 1 a.m. again, he saw a bright light coming into the bank with a shadow behind it. He was so scared, he grabbed his shotgun with buckshot, blasted out the front window of the bank. He was too scared to go look, so he waited till morning. And when morning came, he was expecting to find a dead robber, or if it was an animal, some fur, blood, skin, feathers, something. Couldn't find anything. Just the broken glass of his broken window. But he looked around the building and he saw these giant 3-toed tracks of some creature. It was said that he took a plaster cast of it, but what happened to that cast we don't know. Well, now the town was in turmoil. They thought something bad was happening. So the next night, O.B. White, who was right here, was sleeping above his hardware store when he heard the sound of 2 metal rasps, like files, being rubbed together. He went to his window, let his eyes adjust, and on the telephone pole, he saw the creature sleeping. He took deliberate aim with his gun, shot it, but it didn't hurt it, it didn't kill it, it simply woke it up. And it turned its light on him and released some odor, he said, that erased the rest of his memory. He couldn't remember anything the rest of that night. Sidney Gregg, a businessman who was sleeping on the other side of the road, heard his gunfire, looked out the window and saw this creature descending the telephone pole, using its beak like a parrot on the way down. He said it got up right in this area on all 4s, stood erect, over 8 feet tall, went down to all 4s, extended its wings, and flew out of town back to the old coal mine. So now it's Friday morning, the town is terrorized, they don't know what to do. They gather up a posse of men, everyone who they could gather, to go out to the old brick and tile factory where the mine was. And they went out there and they waited. About midnight, as it got really dark, they saw some creature fly off toward town. But they don't know what happened. We don't know if they saw it. They stayed out there, and right before the sun came up, they heard the sound of Satan and a regiment of imps coming up out of the tunnel. That's when they saw the creature fly in, and it was now joined by an identical-looking, smaller creature. Another bat-like creature about 4 feet tall. They shot at it. They said they shot so many times it would have sunk the Spanish fleet, and the creature simply just shrieked at them and then descended into the coal mine. Then what happened? We don't know. It left off. The newspaper didn't finish the story. So we don't know if they killed it, if they got away, what happened, but they finally sealed off the mine, and for years people have talked about that area being haunted with spirits, that kids would go out there and see bricks flying across on their own and shadows, and they thought it was haunted because they didn't know the story of the creature. And just over the last couple of years, we've had people tell us that they've seen things out there, flying things that shouldn't be there. So what it was, we don't know. Townsfolk at the time thought it was still robbers. They thought it was practical jokers. They thought it was an antediluvian creature dug up from the mines. They thought it was a misidentified beast, or they thought it was a new animal that had never been discovered. Remember, in 1903, they had just officially discovered the mountain gorilla. So the people of Van Meter said, why can't there be a giant bat? There's a giant monkey. So they thought it might have been a creature. Some thought it was the devil or demons coming up. But we really have no idea. It's unsolved. And it still might be out here today. And that's the fun of retracing the steps at night, is you don't need a great imagination to think that something could still be out here. And I love that the coal mine, people think it was miles outside of town. It's only about 7 blocks out of town. So it was really close. So seeing it, I think is great that it's still there. The mine itself's covered over, you wouldn't even recognize it, but it's still down there. What's down there, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. That's a short and long version, I guess. Yeah. So
Cool. Grab your own copies of these and other Chad Lewis books at chadlewisresearch.com.